Story 1. The Lake That Took Her. Daniel always said the lake was the best part of summer. It was a tradition, one that stretched back before he was born, before his parents even met. Every year, when the days turned long and hot, his family drove north, winding along country roads until the trees opened into a clearing and the dark stretch of Lake Maynard came into view. The cabin was old, a creaky wooden box with peeling paint and screen doors that squealed whenever someone went in or out. But for Daniel, it was paradise. No city noise, no schoolwork, just days spent in the water, nights around the fire. He remembered it all so clearly. The smell of sunscreen and bug spray, the sizzling sound of burgers on the grill, and the way the lake looked when the sun dipped low, like a black mirror reflecting a sky streaked in orange and pink. But there was one memory he could never shake. The summer Lily disappeared. Lily was Daniel's cousin, a year younger than him, but braver, wilder. She had a laugh that seemed too loud for her small body and hair that was always tangled from running through the woods. They were inseparable each summer. If Daniel wanted to fish, Lily was already tying bait. If Lily wanted to explore the rocks on the far side of the lake, Daniel was the one helping her balance. That year, Daniel was 14. Lily was 13. They were too old for the kids' table, too young for the freedom of the adults, so they made their own rules. Their favorite game was racing across the lake, seeing who could swim farther before chickening out. The water was always colder the farther you went, the silence deeper, the shadows darker beneath the surface. On the day it happened, the air was heavy with heat. The grown-ups lounged on the porch, sipping iced tea. Daniel and Lily stood on the dock, staring out at the water. "Bet I can beat you to the buoy," Lily said, pointing at the rusted marker floating what seemed like miles away. "You'll never make it," Daniel teased, but he felt the itch of competition. They dove in. The water closed over Daniel's head, shocking and cold against his skin. He surfaced with a gasp, already pushing forward, arms slicing the water. Lily was beside him, strong for her age, her kicks quick and relentless. At first it was fun, splashing, laughing, challenging each other. But as the dock shrank behind them, the sound of their parents' voices faded, replaced by silence. The water was dark now, reflecting nothing but the blazing sun overhead. Daniel slowed, breath ragged. "Maybe we should turn back." But Lily shook her head, determination flashing in her eyes. She pushed ahead. Daniel cursed under his breath and followed. His arms burned, lungs straining. The buoy looked no closer, yet Lily surged forward, pulling away. Then, suddenly, she wasn't beside him anymore. Daniel treaded water, spinning in circles. "Lily," his voice cracked across the lake. Nothing but the gentle slap of waves answered. Panic surged. He dove beneath the surface, eyes stinging. All he saw was endless green-black water, stretching into shadow. He surfaced again, gasping. "Lily," no reply. By the time Daniel reached the dock, screaming for help, his throat was raw. Chairs clattered as his parents and uncle ran. Within minutes, the adults were diving in, calling Lily's name. His aunt stood frozen on the shore, hands pressed to her mouth. The hours blurred together, boats searching the lake, sirens wailing, strangers in uniforms asking Daniel the same questions over and over. "Where did you last see her? How far out were you? Did she call for help?" He had no answers. Only that one instant when she was there, and the next when she wasn't. Divers combed the lake for days. They brought in sonar, dragged the water. They found nothing. Not a body, not a piece of clothing, not even a ripple to suggest she had ever been there at all. Eventually, they called it an accident, a drowning. But Daniel couldn't accept it. The lake didn't give her back. It just swallowed her. Years later, time passed. The summers grew quieter. His family stopped going to the lake as often. The cabin fell into disrepair. By the time Daniel was in college, they'd sold it altogether. He told himself he'd moved on. He built a new life, one where the memory of Lily was a shadow he kept pressed into the corners of his mind. But shadows don't stay hidden forever. One August afternoon, nearly 15 years later, Daniel found himself driving north. He hadn't planned it. The urge came suddenly, gnawing at him until he couldn't resist. The highway unspooled beneath his wheels, leading him back toward the place he had avoided for half his life. When the lake appeared, Daniel pulled over, breath caught in his chest. It looked the same. The same endless stretch of black water, the same hush of pine trees leaning close. Only the cabin was gone, replaced by newer houses with satellite dishes and trimmed lawns. The dock was still there, weathered but standing. Daniel stepped onto it, each creak of the wood echoing in his ears. The air smelled of pine and damp earth, just as he remembered. And then he heard it. It was faint, carried by the breeze. A whisper. "Danny." Daniel froze. His name. He turned, heart slamming. The shoreline was empty. The houses were dark. "Danny." This time, the sound came from the water, from the center of the lake. He stepped to the edge of the dock, staring out at the buoy in the distance. The same one they'd raced toward that day. The water rippled, though no wind stirred. It was her voice. Lily's voice. Daniel's throat closed. "No," he whispered, backing away. "You're gone. You've been gone for years." But the lake answered with another ripple, spreading outward as if something beneath the surface had moved. And then he saw her. For just a heartbeat, she was there, standing waist-deep in the water near the buoy. Her hair hung in wet tangles. Her dress clung to her body, her skin pale as moonlight. "Danny," she called again. Daniel staggered forward, tears burning his eyes. His mind screamed it was impossible, but his heart knew the sound of her voice. "Come back," she pleaded. Her arms lifted, reaching for him. The dock shuddered. Water lapped at the wood, higher than it should. His feet felt heavy, as if the boards wanted to drag him under. Daniel fell to his knees, clutching the edge. "What do you want?" he whispered. Her lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "It's your turn." The lake surged. Water exploded upward, icy hands gripping his ankles. Daniel screamed, clawing at the dock as unseen fingers tightened. He kicked, struggled, but the pull was relentless, dragging him toward the black water. "Danny." Lily's voice rose above the roar of waves. But it wasn't pleading now, it was commanding. He fought harder, splinters tearing into his palms. The water reached his knees, his waist. He choked as icy spray hit his face. Through the chaos, he saw her again, closer now, her eyes dark and endless. Behind her, shapes moved beneath the surface. Dozens of them. Pale faces. Outstretched hands. All waiting. Daniel screamed until water filled his lungs. They found his car on the roadside the next morning. Door wide open, keys still in the ignition. On the dock, there were drag marks. Scratches in the wood, as if fingernails had clawed desperately for purchase. But of Daniel himself, there was no trace. The lake hadn't given him back either. Story 2, the camp in the wood. They called it Camp Ashwood, though no map marked its name. The place existed half in memory, half in myth. Parents whispered about it when they wanted their kids to behave, and older siblings used it as a punchline to scare the younger ones during stormy nights. But to Jordan, Marcus, and Haley, the stories were nothing more than campfire legends. They were 17, invincible, and determined to squeeze every thrill possible from their last summer together before adulthood scattered them in different directions. That was the summer they learned Camp Ashwood wasn't just a story. It started on a blistering July afternoon. The three of them sprawled in Marcus's basement with sodas and boredom thick in the air. Jordan flipped through his phone, restless. "We're wasting the whole summer," he muttered. "Remember when we were kids? We used to bike all day, sneak into the quarry, do actual stuff." "Yeah, but now it's hot and gross," Haley said, her blonde ponytail damp against her neck. "Besides, there's nothing left around here." Marcus smirked. "What about Camp Ashwood?" Haley rolled her eyes. "Oh, please." Jordan raised an eyebrow. "You mean the place our parents freak out about? The one where that counselor supposedly disappeared?" Marcus nodded, leaning forward. "Not just disappeared. My uncle swears they found his cabin torn apart. Blood on the walls, bed shredded. But no body. Urban legend," Haley said, though her voice wavered. "Then prove it." Marcus grinned. "Let's camp there. One night. Just us." Jordan laughed nervously. "You're insane." But later, when the sun dipped low and boredom pressed even harder, the idea, didn't seem so crazy. By dusk, they had their sleeping bags stuffed into Marcus's car, flashlights, snacks, and a cheap tent. The thrill of it buzzed in their veins like soda fizz. They weren't scared. Not yet. The road to Ashwood was more suggestion than path, a rutted dirt stretch winding between pines that grew too close together. Branches clawed the car as they drove. By the time they reached a small clearing, the last light was fading. "End of the line," Marcus said, killing the engine. They piled out, stretching stiff legs. The air was thick with the smell of pine sap and damp earth. "This is so stupid," Haley muttered, but she followed the boys as they shouldered gear and started down the trail. The deeper they walked, the quieter it became. The cicadas hushed. The usual rustle of small animals was absent. Only their footsteps crunched against dry leaves. After 20 minutes, the trees opened into a wide, weedy clearing. And there it was. Camp Ashwood. Time had not been kind. The cabins sagged, roofs collapsed in patches, windows gaping like blind eyes. Graffiti scarred the wood. Names, symbols, crude drawings layered over older, faded scrawls. At the center stood the mess hall, its door hanging crooked, paint peeling in long strips. Jordan whistled low. "Creepy enough for you." Haley shivered. "We shouldn't be here." But Marcus dropped his pack with a grin. "Exactly why we should." They pitched their tent near the fire pit, the remnants of scorched logs still inside. As night settled, the clearing filled with shadows, the cabins looming like watchful figures. They lit a lantern and passed around snacks, trying to laugh off their nerves. That's when the noises started. It was subtle at first, a twig snapping in the distance, the faint rustle of leaves. "Probably deer," Marcus said quickly. But then came the footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. "Hello," Jordan called, voice cracking. Silence. The three exchanged nervous glances. "Probably some other kids messing with us," Marcus said, though his knuckles were white around the lantern handle. But Jordan's stomach twisted. The sound hadn't come from the woods. It had come from inside one of the cabins. Curiosity gnawed at them. Finally, Marcus grabbed his flashlight. "Come on. Let's prove it's nothing." Haley protested, but followed anyway, clutching Jordan's arm. They approached the nearest cabin. The door creaked open with little pressure, revealing a room thick with dust. Bunks lined the walls, mattresses eaten by mold. The beam of the flashlight caught on something scratched into the headboard of the nearest bed. "Don't stay after dark." Haley's breath hitched. "See? Someone planted that to scare people." But Jordan crouched, running his fingers over the letters. They weren't new. The grooves were deep, the wood worn smooth with age. Before he could say anything, a loud slam echoed across the clearing. Their tent. They sprinted back to find the lantern overturned, their sleeping bags dragged out into the dirt. "No way," Marcus whispered, face pale. The woods were silent again. Too silent. Haley's voice shook. "We need to leave." But the path back to the car seemed impossibly dark, the trees pressing closer than before. And then, from the shadows of another cabin, came the sound of a door slowly creaking open. The flashlight beam swept across the doorway. Something moved. Not an animal. Not a person. It was crouched, limbs too long, joints bending wrong, its skin pale like bark stripped of its tree. Its face was a blur, as though the shadows refused to let it be seen clearly. It hissed. Haley screamed. Marcus dropped the flashlight. Darkness swallowed them. "Run!" Jordan shouted. They bolted, crashing through weeds, tripping over roots. The creature followed, fast, impossibly fast, its breath rasping behind them. The trail twisted. Branches clawed their faces. Their lungs burned. And then, Jordan realized Haley wasn't with them anymore. Her scream tore through the trees, then cut off abruptly. Jordan skidded to a stop, heart slamming. "Haley!" Marcus yanked at his arm. We can't go back." But Jordan couldn't leave her. He turned, plunging into the dark, calling her name. Silence. Then, faintly a whisper. "Jordan," he froze. The voice was wrong. Stretched. Hollow. "Jordan." The whisper came from everywhere at once, echoing through the trees. And then he saw her. Haley stood a few feet away, hair matted, face pale. Her eyes were black, empty pits. Her mouth opened too wide, splitting her cheeks, and the voice that crawled out wasn't hers. "Stay with us." Behind her, more figures emerged from the trees. Dozens. All wrong. All twisted. Jordan stumbled back, throat raw with screams. He and Marcus never made it back to the car. Weeks later, hikers found the vehicle abandoned, keys still in the ignition. Deep in the woods, they discovered a campsite torn apart, belongings scattered. But no bodies. Only the cabins, standing silent, their doorways gaping like mouths waiting to be fed again. And inside one of them, scratched freshly into the wood, 2 more for the camp. Story 3, the Summer Carnival. Every summer, when the air shimmered with heat and the nights buzzed with cicadas, a small traveling carnival appeared on the outskirts of town. It never advertised. No flyers. No billboards. No commercials. One day, the field would be empty. The next, it would be full of striped tents, blinking lights, and the distant strains of calliope music drifting through the warm evening air. To kids, it was magic. To parents, it was an oddity. To Anna, it was an irresistible lure. She was 16 that summer, restless in a town where nothing ever changed. When she and her best friend, Lila, spotted the glow of carnival lights through the trees one humid evening, they didn't hesitate. "Come on," Anna said, tugging at Lila's arm. They crossed the dirt road, weeds brushing their legs, until the field opened up before them. The carnival stretched wide, bigger than it looked from the road. Rides spun lazily against the twilight. Booths beckoned with prizes that gleamed unnaturally bright under the lights. And yet, something was off. The air smelled faintly of rust beneath the sweetness of cotton candy. The calliope music lagged, a beat too slow, notes dragging like they were tired. And though the carnival was full of people, Anna noticed their faces never seemed quite clear, as if the lights warped them into blurs. Still, her heart thumped with excitement. This was something new, something different. They hadn't passed a ticket booth. There were no turnstiles. They simply walked in. But just inside the entrance stood a man. He was tall, wearing a red-striped suit and a bowler hat. His skin looked powdered, his smile too wide. "Welcome, welcome," he said, his voice carrying over the noise like he stood right beside them, though he never moved closer. "Enjoy the show. Don't stay too long." Lila gave a nervous laugh. Creepy much, but Anna was already moving toward the games. At first, it was fun. Anna won a stuffed rabbit at the ring toss, though the rings seemed to bend midair, always landing where she wanted them. Lila tried the shooting gallery and swore the targets shifted closer when she blinked. Every prize was strange. The rabbit's eyes gleamed like polished stone. The goldfish in bags barely moved, but their mouths opened and closed in perfect unison, like they were whispering something underwater. Anna didn't care. She felt giddy, the energy of the carnival seeping into her blood. But Lila wasn't smiling anymore. "Let's just check out the rides, okay?" The Ferris wheel loomed at the far end, taller than it had any right to be, its cars swaying against the night sky. They climbed aboard, the operator never speaking, only nodding once before shutting the door. As the wheel rose, Anna pressed her face to the bars, grinning at the view. The carnival stretched endless below them, tents and rides shimmering, the field itself lost in darkness. But when she looked down at the people, her smile faltered. From above, she could see them clearly. None of them were moving naturally. Their steps were jerky, repetitive, as if on loops. A woman bent to pick up a fallen toy, straightened, then bent again. A child licked a candy apple over and over, never lowering it. And some weren't moving at all, just standing, heads tilted back, staring up at the Ferris wheel with empty eyes. "Anna," Lila whispered, gripping her hand. "We need to get off." Now, when the car reached the top, the ride didn't slow. It didn't stop. It kept climbing. The wheel rose higher than the tree-line, higher than the clouds. The carnival below blurred into a whirl of lights. Anna's breath caught. This isn't possible. The air grew cold, thin. The stars stretched, smeared into unfamiliar constellations. And then, just as she thought the car would snap free and drift into the night, the wheel jerked. They plummeted down, heart-stopping speed, only to stop suddenly at the bottom. The operator opened the door, face blank, eyes dark. Neither girl spoke as they stumbled off, legs trembling. They tried to leave. They really did. But no matter which path they took, the carnival twisted back on itself. Booths shifted. Rides stood where they hadn't before. The exit was always just beyond reach. That's when Anna spotted the Hall of Mirrors. "Maybe we can see the road from inside," she said. Lila hesitated. "Anna, no." But Anna was already stepping through the striped curtain. Inside, the mirrors stretched floor to ceiling, reflecting endless copies of them. At first, it was almost funny, seeing themselves warped tall and skinny, short and wide. But then Anna noticed something wrong. Her reflection wasn't moving with her. It blinked when she didn't, tilted its head when she stood still. Its mouth curved into a grin she didn't make. Behind her, Lila whimpered. In her mirror, there was no Lila at all. The reflections began to move on their own. One by one, they stepped out of the glass, barefoot on the dusty floor, their smiles stretching too wide. Anna grabbed Lila's hand, dragging her through the maze, mirrors warping, corridors twisting. The laughter of their doubles echoed all around. They crashed through an exit curtain and found themselves back in the clearing where they'd first entered. The carnival was gone. The field was empty. No tents, no rides, no lights, just weeds swaying under the moon. Anna dropped to her knees, gasping. Lila stood frozen, face pale as bone. "Anna," she whispered. "Look." In her hand, Anna still clutched the stuffed rabbit she'd won. Its stone eyes gleamed in the dark, and when she squeezed it, she swore she felt a tiny heartbeat. The next morning, townsfolk found the girls wandering the road, clothes torn, eyes wide. Anna tried to explain, but no one believed her. Every summer after, she went back to the field. It always remained empty. Until one night, years later, when the lights returned. This time, she was alone.